There was a time when almost everyone had a Nokia phone in their pocket. In the early 2000s, Nokia was the king of the mobile world. Its phones were everywhere, across Europe, Asia, Africa, and the United States. Devices like the legendary Nokia 3310 became famous for being strong, simple, and almost impossible to break. Many people trusted Nokia because the phones worked for days without charging and could survive drops. By 2007, Nokia controlled nearly half of the global mobile phone market. It looked unstoppable. But then something changed. New smartphones appeared, touchscreens, apps, and powerful software began to take over. Within just a few years, the company that once ruled the world started falling behind. So what happened? How did Nokia lose the smartphone war? What mistakes led to its downfall? In this video on Project Meltdown, we're breaking down the full story. If you enjoy deep tech stories like this, make sure to like the video and subscribe to Project Meltdown for more fascinating breakdowns. The golden age of Nokia. To understand why Nokia eventually lost the smartphone race, we first need to look at how powerful the company once was. Nokia started in Finland in the 19th century, long before mobile phones even existed. Over many decades, the company changed its business several times and eventually focused on telecommunications. By the 1990s and early 2000s, Nokia had become the largest mobile phone maker in the world. The company's success came from a few key strengths. The first was reliability. Nokia phones were famous for being extremely durable. People often joked that a Nokia phone could fall on the ground many times and still work perfectly. The second strength was battery life. Many Nokia phones could run for several days on a single charge, which made them very practical for everyday use. The third strength was global reach. Nokia sold phones in almost every part of the world and worked closely with mobile carriers to make its devices widely available. During this time, most phones were simple devices mainly used for calls and text messages. These were known as feature phones. Nokia mastered this market better than anyone else. But soon, a new wave of technology would completely change the mobile phone industry. The smartphone revolution begins. In 2007, a moment arrived that completely changed the mobile phone industry. That year, Apple introduced the first iPhone, presented by Steve Jobs. At first, the device looked simple, but it introduced ideas that would reshape the future of phones. One of the biggest changes was the touchscreen. Instead of using physical keyboards and many buttons, people could control the phone by touching the screen directly. This made the device easier to use and opened the door to a completely new style of interaction. More importantly, the iPhone changed how people thought about phones. Instead of being just tools for calls and text messages, smartphones started becoming small pocket computers. They could browse the internet, play games, send emails, watch videos, and run different applications. Soon after, another major player joined the race. Google introduced Android, an operating system that allowed many manufacturers to build smartphones using the same platform. Companies like Samsung and Huawei quickly adopted Android and began producing powerful devices. Within just a few years, the industry changed dramatically. Success was no longer only about hardware. It became about software, apps, and overall user experience. Areas where Nokia began to struggle. Nokia's biggest problem, one of the biggest reasons Nokia lost the smartphone war, was its operating system. For many years, Nokia depended on a platform called Symbian. At one time, Symbian was a powerful system designed for early smartphones. It worked well on phones with small screens and physical buttons. In the early 2000s, this design made sense because most phones were built that way. But the industry soon began to change. When touchscreens started becoming popular, Symbian began to show its weaknesses. The system was not built for large touch displays, and updating it for this new style of phones proved difficult. Many users found Symbian slow and complicated compared to newer systems. Developers also found it harder to create apps for Symbian devices. At the same time, iOS from Apple and Android from Google were becoming more modern and easier to use. These platforms supported large app stores, which made smartphones more useful and exciting for users. In the new smartphone era, software became just as important as hardware, and this was where Nokia slowly started falling behind its competitors. The app ecosystem problem. As smartphones became more popular, apps quickly became the center of the whole experience. People no longer wanted phones just for calling and texting. They wanted devices that could run social media, games, maps, e-music, and many other tools. In 2008, Apple launched the App Store, allowing developers to easily create and share apps with users around the world. Soon after, Google introduced the Android market, which later became the Google Play Store. These platforms made smartphones far more useful and exciting. However, Nokia struggled to build a strong app ecosystem for its Symbian system. Developers often found Symbian difficult to work with because the platform was complex and fragmented across many devices. Without a large number of apps, Nokia smartphones became less attractive to users. And with fewer users, developers had less motivation to create new apps. This cycle slowly pushed Nokia further behind its competitors. Nokia misread the future. Another important reason Nokia lost the smartphone war was that it misunderstood where the mobile market was heading. For many years, Nokia believed its existing strategy would keep working. The company focused on producing many different phone models, improving hardware quality, and using its strong global distribution network. But the industry was changing in a big way. Phones were no longer just physical devices. Smartphones were becoming software platforms where apps, internet services, and user experience mattered most. People now cared about things like smooth touchscreens, easy internet browsing, regular software updates, and access to thousands of apps. Nokia reacted slowly to this shift. Even after realizing that smartphones were the future, the company's response came too late. By the time Nokia began changing its strategy, competitors had already built strong ecosystems around their platforms. Internal problems. Inside Nokia, technology problems were not the only reason for the decline of Nokia. The company also faced serious internal challenges. Later research and interviews with former employees showed that Nokia had a difficult corporate culture. Many workers felt afraid to speak openly about problems inside the company. Some managers also worried about sharing bad news with senior leaders. Because of this, important issues, including the weaknesses of Symbian, were not discussed or fixed quickly enough. Instead of moving fast toward a new and better platform, the company spent years debating different plans. During that same time, competitors continued to improve their smartphones and software. Yet in fast-moving technology industries, slow decisions can be very dangerous. And for Nokia, these delays became extremely costly. The confusing operating system strategy. In the late 2000s, Nokia began experimenting with several different operating systems. Instead of focusing on one clear platform, the company worked on multiple projects at the same time. These included Symbian, MeeGo, and a few other experimental systems. Innovation is normally a good thing, but in this situation it created confusion. The company's resources were split between different teams, and there was no single clear direction. Developers were unsure which platform would continue in the future, which made them hesitant to build apps. Customers also became uncertain about which Nokia phones would receive long-term support and updates. Meanwhile, smartphone makers using Android focused on one unified platform that improved quickly every year. The Microsoft partnership. By 2011, Nokia knew it needed a big change. The company decided to partner with Microsoft and use the Windows Phone operating system. This was announced by CEO Stephen Elop. Nokia then started making smartphones under the Lumia brand using Windows Phone. At first, it looked promising. Windows Phone had a smooth interface and unique design. But there was a major problem. The platform had very few apps. Compared to iOS and Android, Windows Phone's App Store was tiny, and many popular apps were missing. Even with good hardware and cameras, Lumia phones struggled to attract users. Meanwhile, Android makers kept releasing new devices, and the market moved forward without Nokia. The rapid collapse. The speed of Nokia's decline shocked the tech world. In 2007, Nokia controlled a huge part of the global phone market and seemed unstoppable. But within just a few years, everything changed. By 2012, competitors like Samsung had taken the lead in smartphones, and Nokia's market share dropped sharply. The company could no longer compete effectively. In 2013, Nokia sold its mobile phone business to Microsoft for about $7.2 billion, ending its era as the world's top phone maker. For millions who grew up with Nokia devices, it was the end of an era, a reminder of how quickly technology can change and how even the biggest giants can fall. What happened after the fall? Even though Nokia disappeared from the smartphone spotlight, the company didn't vanish. After selling its phone division, Nokia focused on building telecom networks and equipment worldwide. Today, it works on 5G, cloud networking, and infrastructure, remaining important in global technology. but its days as the king of consumer phones are now part of history. The lessons from Nokia's fall. Nokia's story is now studied in business schools around the world because it teaches important lessons about technology and innovation. The first lesson is that success can make a company complacent. When a company dominates, it might think its position will last forever, but technology changes very fast. The second lesson is that software ecosystems matter. Today, devices are more than hardware. They are platforms with apps, developers, and services that make them useful. The third lesson is that companies must adapt quickly, or even small delays can let competitors take the lead. Finally, Nokia shows that even the strongest companies can fall if they fail to notice big changes in technology. For millions of people around the world, Nokia phones were their first step into mobile technology. They were strong, reliable, and unforgettable. But the smartphone revolution changed everything. The industry moved from simple phones to powerful digital ecosystems built around apps, software, and services. Companies like Apple and Google understood this shift and built platforms that shaped the future of smartphones. Unfortunately, Nokia reacted too slowly. Its aging software, internal struggles, and difficult decisions allowed competitors to move ahead. But Nokia's story is not just about failure. It is a powerful lesson about how fast technology can change the world. Even the biggest companies cannot stay on top forever. So what do you think? Could Nokia have saved itself? Or was the smartphone revolution impossible to stop? If you enjoyed this story, like the video, and subscribe to Project Meltdown for more deep tech stories and business breakdowns.